Alright, my name is Victoria Cavalier, and today we are going to be teaching you about employee communication. I'm going to let the trainers introduce themselves right now, so here we go.
My name is Taylor Veillon.
I'm Kristen. I'm Emily Miller.
And then we have two trainees sitting here that are going to be examples for you to follow along with. You can take notes along with them as well. So, this is...
Hi, I'm Shelbi.
And I'm Jordan Long.
Alright, President Reagan's former speechwriter said that the art of communication is the language of leadership. Being a leader comes down to your ability to communicate effectively with your colleagues. So what is employee communication? It's the sharing of ideas, information, and opinions among individuals that work in the same organization. In today's business world, we do have a lot of different channels of talking and sharing information and communicating, stuff like Skype or conference calls, phone, email, anything like that. And knowing how to communicate effectively through all these channels is critical to your success. You will definitely have to be a member of a team or collaborate with others at some point in your life. And without effective communication, a group will not be able to perform effectively and meet the bottom line. Effective communication also allows employees to build relationships and feel fulfilled in their work. Today in this training seminar, we'll be going over verbal communication and nonverbal communication. For verbal, we'll be talking about, we'll be covering
A couple different strategies to help you practice those skills.
Yeah. All right, and we're going to have 2 skills for each strategy that you're going to be able to practice along with.
Absolutely. All right. So I'll get us started with verbal communication. So first, our first strategy is going to be make images concrete. So let's talk a little bit more about verbal communication just in general though. Selecting the right words and phrases really begins with the impression you wish to make. And so think about when you're at work. What are typical characteristics or qualities you think of in a positive way about a fellow colleague, or things that you want people to think about for you? Some of those might be being ethical, friendly, resourceful, decisive, or dependable. Those are things that you look for in a colleague and are positive impressions that you might want to make on someone else when you're at work. So we want to help you understand how these desired impressions are tied not only to what you say, but also how you say it. And so the 2 strategies we're going to cover to help you hone this verbal communication skill should help you be able to achieve this desired impression at work. So like I said, that first strategy is make images concrete. So imagery is the language that helps us see, feel, and hear a message. It's typically tied to the senses like touch, sight, smell, taste, etc. And so one good example, let's say you wanted to explain how complicated a project was to someone that you were sitting with at lunch, maybe in your work cafeteria. The best way to say it would probably be something like this. It will take 1 year, require 20 dedicated professionals working on it full time, and cost $1 million. That's a lot of detailed language that really helps you convey your message. And so we want to help you create those sort of messages to help people visualize what you were trying to communicate more clearly. So now we're going to have a practice opportunity for those in the audience, and we'd like you to practice along with our example trainees, and feel free to look to them for reference. So I'm going to give you a boring statement about something that you might write in an email at work, and I want you to change it, to use that imagery we talked about to make it more vivid and really clearly communicate your message. So here's your statement. Today, I met with some people and made some decisions. So now take the next few seconds to maybe write down how you would make that statement more vivid, and we'll show you an example of that with our 2 trainees down here. Anybody ready to show?
Yes.
Great.
Okay, so my statement is, today I participated in a tense meeting with the graphics department. The topic is very important to the company, so voices were loud and discussions were heated. We decided that we would create a year-long campaign to draw a stronger female audience to our awesome products.
Very good.
The one I came up with was, today I met with the IT division to ask about how we would help the company transition to using Windows 10, and we decided we would roll out the new operating system in phases.
Excellent. So I hope y'all there in the audience had similar success to our trainees here, and we saw how they made those statements more detailed and gave a lot more information about that meeting that they attended and those decisions they made. Just to kind of summarize this, we want to give you, from a training perspective, our own example. So this is what we would have done with it. Today, I met with a dynamic group of individuals in the engineering department. They are nail-bitingly worried about how effective the new designs for the drilling rigs might be. And they were looking for comforting and definitive reassurance. After a tense meeting with stiff necks and tight shoulders, we decided to set up a review meeting with management to help assuage so many of their worries. So we saw with that statement and the statements that we had up here from our own trainees, that we really felt like you were in the meeting, that you knew everything you needed to know from a summary perspective about it, and you could really kind of feel the tension or the excitement that was in the air.
So now our second strategy that we're going to talk about is for verbal communication is choosing the active voice. And voice in grammar refers to the relationship between the subject and the verb of a sentence. In the active voice, the subject is the one who's performing the action. And then on the other hand, with the passive voice, the subject is the one receiving the action. So I'll just give you all a quick example of this. An active voice statement would be, the manager conducted a performance review. And then on the other hand, the passive version of it would be, a performance review was conducted by the manager. And so just by listening to those two examples, you can clearly see how the subject receiving the action or performing the action sounds different just by changing up some words of a sentence. And so now we're going to have a practice opportunity for all our trainees in here. And I'm going to give you a sentence that's in the passive voice and that you might see in a workplace email maybe. And I'm going to ask you all to change it into the active voice. So first, our sentence is, the meeting to discuss the new merger was facilitated by our CEO, Kristen. So I'll give you a couple seconds to think about how you may change that to the active voice.
I think I got something. To change it to active voice, it would be our CEO, Kristen Liu, facilitated the meeting to discuss the new merger.
So now we're going to switch it around. I'm going to give you an active statement and y'all are going to change it to a passive version of it. So this statement is, the supervisor will review the report before it is sent to the manager.
Okay, I have something. To change that to passive voice, I would say that the report will be reviewed by the supervisor before it is sent to the manager.
So as we all can see, active voice statements leave a more confident and capable impression, and they are really important to keep in mind in your daily professional communication, especially even through like a work email. The person receiving your email can't actually see you. So if you're going to have an active voice, sound more confident, they'll know exactly what you're talking about and there's no questions about it. So after practicing, we can see how making images concrete and choosing the active voice all relate to common workplace dilemmas and communication channels. And hopefully we can all use these skills that we have learned today and practice to better our verbal communication with fellow employees at work. And just kind of short example, when sending short emails requesting something from a colleague, an individual may usually be vague about their expressions and won't make images concrete or won't use the active voice. And this can often lead to some confusion. So businesses are bogged down in documentation, and being able to write and speak effectively can make a huge difference in how a manager can see you as an employee or just as an individual in the business world. So now we're going to start to discuss effective nonverbal communication. And again, like verbal communication, y'all are going to get two different skills to practice. So nonverbal communication is equally important in managing others, and it's really important in developing impressions and professional relationships. It can also even be easier to accidentally do incorrectly or trip you up at work, just because when you're verbally, you're usually saying what you're meaning, but nonverbal, you may do things, people can take it the wrong way. So many individuals perform these strategies without knowing it, but once you become aware of them, you can do them intentionally and have more control on how others will perceive you. The strategies we will cover to cultivate nonverbal communication can be used in oral correspondence, but can also be used when you're not speaking.
Okay, so our first strategy we're going to discuss that relates to nonverbal communication is smiling and making eye contact. These are two of the most important nonverbal strategies. If you think about who you would rather speak to and communicate with, someone who's frowning and looking away or is disinterested is not as appealing to communicate with as someone who's smiling, friendly, and is paying attention to you by using eye contact. So we're going to have you practice this by turning to the person next to you. One at a time, tell each other something positive about your day while frowning and not making eye contact. So if you two want to practice now.
Okay. Alright, so today I led a meeting for my whole department. It went perfectly, and at the end of the day, my boss pulled me aside to tell me that I would be getting a promotion.
It's kind of boring. Today, I completed a project that I've been working on for a year. The results were so positive that I was offered a raise.
Alright, so now you can repeat your sentences again while you smile and make eye contact.
Okay. So today I led a meeting for my whole department, and it went perfectly. At the end, my boss pulled me aside to tell me that I would be getting a promotion.
Nice. Today, I completed a project that I have been working on for a year, and the results were so positive that I was offered a raise.
Alright, great. You can obviously see that the second sentence that you practice while smiling and making eye contact facilitated communication, and it engages with your coworkers a lot easier. So this is something that each and every one of us should practice in day-to-day business communications, and even just throughout our day, outside of work even. Our second strategy to work on nonverbal communication is to gesture and illustrate and emphasize. The study of using gestures to communicate is called kinesics. Using gestures effectively can help emphasize important information an individual is trying to communicate. Employees who use gestures effectively are often seen as decisive and engaging. So now we're going to have you practice this by turning to the person next to you, and you can explain how much work or studying you've ever done in one day while sitting on your hands. So, if you two would like to practice.
Okay. So today I managed to type up a 50-page document that explains a year-long process that takes up to 10 people and is crucial for our department.
Okay, and now you can practice this again by using your hands and emphasizing your words.
Okay. So today I managed to type up a 50-page document that explains a year-long process that takes up to 10 people and is crucial for our department.
Alright, thank you. As you can see, this takes much less time during the second attempt because you were able to use less words and ended up even using more emphasis. I think for some of us this comes a little bit more naturally to use hand gestures, and now we're going to talk about 4 different types of gestures: adapters, effect displays, emblems, and illustrators. These illustrators are most effective in a business context, and this is why our audience should use effect displays and adapters. Adapters are unintentional body movements that people use to deal with stress or boredom. So this can include biting your nails or even flipping your hair, playing with your hair. Effect displays are facial expressions used to convey feelings like disgust or joy and are typically unintentional. Emblems are silent, intentional movements that typically have a direct verbal translation that is widely understood. This could include cupping your ear and putting an index finger over your lips. Illustrators are intentional movements that are used along with verbal messages to provide emphasis, and this could be counting out loud while counting on your fingers. So we can relate both of these strategies to common workplace dilemmas and communication channels to remind us how to have better nonverbal communication skills, just like Kristen talked with the verbal communication skills. This can include making sure to make eye contact and not frowning while in meetings or presentations, and also be sure to gesture in communications and use more emphasis. So, turn it over to you.
Alright, so today we did learn about nonverbal and verbal communication and how important they both are to your workplace environment. And for verbal, we practice the strategies of making images concrete. And choosing the active voice instead of the passive voice. For nonverbal, we practice the strategies of smiling and making eye contact when speaking, and then gesturing and illustrating to emphasize. As you leave, we challenge you to employ at least one of these 4 skills that we learned today and see how little changes can make a big change in your professional life. Thank you.
Thank you.